In a world overflowing with distractions, we seek meaning. How do we transform ambition into something deeper, into true fulfillment? I'm Sam Pepin, CEO of Centrica, and I've spent years helping businesses succeed by connecting their goals to something bigger. On the Meaningful podcast, we explore not just how to win in business, but how to grow as individuals. Through conversation with thought leaders, innovators, and everyday heroes, we uncover the stories that drive us towards something greater. Whether you're striving for success, seeking purpose, or just looking for the next steps in your journey, this podcast is your guide to navigating the intersection of ambition, growth, and meaning. So please join me and our incredible guests as we redefine what's possible in both business and life. Enjoy.
Trust is not built by speaking louder. It's built by showing up with purpose, clarity, and consistency. Welcome to the Meaningful Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Pepin. Today we're diving into the science of building trust through content, the power of narrative in B2B visibility, and how AI is revolutionizing the way companies earn attention and credibility. Our guest today is Stefan Badertscher, founder of PINAVOX and creator of the Rapid Trust Engine, a proven system helping industrial B2B companies become the most valuable, invisible, trusted brand in their niche. It is also a wonderful partner of Centrica and a third-part owner in our company that is now specialized in AI called TrueDevi. After selling his previous company, IMPACK, to international success through a thrust-first content strategy, Stefan now helps sales and marketing teams install their own internal media engines powered by strategy, story, and AI. If you enjoyed this discussion, please let everyone know with a like, a small review, or even a quick share. Your support helps more people find meaningful content just like this. Let's begin. Mr. Stefan Badertscher, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Sam.
Welcome on a Meaningful Podcast. You've been a friend of mine for a little while now, partner, and I'm very, very excited for this episode. I think we'll dive into some very interesting and very important topic business-wise. But to kick us off, please tell us more about PINAVOX.
Yeah, PINAVOX came to life after my own experience in a very niche industry, which is machinery manufacturing for the carton industry, where I actually came by pure accident or incident actually after my studies in mechanical engineering, joined a small company. And there, in the end, when at some point we tried to find ways to go big international without the big partners, we had to find a way to get out to the world without traveling like crazy, without spending tens of thousands of dollars. And we implemented a system based on the They Ask You Answer principles. And it worked. We had a lot of success, like exponential organic traffic growth. We outranked the companies 100 times bigger than us. And it was just becoming a lot of fun because, like, doing business, because suddenly people come in well-educated and saying, thank you for what you're doing online. It's not like pushing a sale, right? You get people actually thank you for what you're doing. They know you. They think they know you when they talk to you because you're everywhere. And then I said, well, I want to bring this to a broader audience, to other companies, right? There's so many industrial businesses that still do not have the presence they deserve. They know they are good with their clients. They have their expertise. They're open, honest. They do the best service in the world, but not enough people know about them. So this is like PINAVOX comes from Pinnacle and Vox voice. So I want to get them to the top voice of their industry online. You can do it even if you're smaller. This is what we proved, and this is what I want to help other companies to achieve.
Very nice. Like you said, the genesis of this story started with a company of yours called IMPACK, right? That you were able to scale to international success, and with really this sort of trust-first, content-based methodology. I'm interested for you. You're obviously, you mentioned the Ask You Answer. You also have the French translation of that book, which is very interesting. We'll definitely have that one in the description also of this podcast. from your perspective, when you walk us through the moment in which you sort of understood from your first business that this was absolutely crucial. Was it sort of a genesis moment for you? What was the sort of the decisive moment when you said, you know what, that's what's next for our company?
It actually was at the time where we had a big partner, and they brought me to worldwide customers everywhere. But this is where I was traveling like crazy. I mean, I've been driving thousands of kilometers, 10 hours, 12 hours per day to visit a customer that might be a good fit, but wasn't ready at all. Okay, so
Right.
a lot of time. And then at some point, they wanted more exclusivity on our machinery, especially in the US. But we were already pretty well known, and we didn't want to give this big territory just to one big competitor that in the end, the other two that are in the market, because they were $3 billion companies, they would turn around, copy our machines pretty quickly. So we said, no, we now are, well established to a certain level. We need to fly on our own wings. And this is where I dove deeper into what should we do. We tried just building a new website with fancy 3D simulations of our machines. This didn't really bring a result, right? It's just a fancy new website. But then I went into like inbound marketing made sense for me, absolutely attract interested people. But what you write about, and this is where at some point at this one event, I heard Marcus Sheridan, the author of the Ask You Answer Speak, and he shared this info, like, if you're open and transparent, just answer your customers' questions, it works. He's shown it, and other companies have shown it after. But the point was also, don't do just any fancy marketing. Like, don't just follow a fancy marketing strategy and hope it works. You measure everything and improve based on what you see. So obviously this resonated for our company for 2 points, right? We were a lot of technical guys, all engineers. So we had to say, okay, we measure, we improve, we measure, we improve. Plus, we were already the only ones in our industry that were going out directly to our customers and saying, hey, listen, we do fixed pricing, because we know everyone talks like, why do you give 30% here, 20% to this customer, 10% to this? We're just honest and direct. So this resonated with us. And then we said, okay, now let's try this. Let's go all in. We hired a content writer at a time where there was no AI, right? We took a lot of time because we believed in, if we do it once right, put it out there repeatedly, we will be seen. And then every content piece becomes on its own a sales rep for the years to come. Like, this is where we clearly said, like, with this realization of where I heard it and then implemented it, after a couple of months, we saw suddenly someone finding us from Romania. I mean, we didn't have any contact with Romania, but they Googled us, they found us. So this is where we clearly saw, okay, now it works. And then the snowball effect comes in later, where you then see the exponential growth. Yeah.
You call obviously trust the ultimate differentiator. And to me, what you're talking about, sort of this piece of content that brings sort of an exponential results, is because I call it digital real estate, right? When you create content and you put it based on the web, that exists 24/7 and works for you. And in a world of, noise, and you started this with before AI, and obviously we're gonna talk about AI in this episode, but after AI, it's a whole new ballgame. And we commoditize content to a point which is quite outstanding, actually. But trust, for me, it used to be a benefit, but now it is an absolute must. Now it's a brand. It's really something that is so vital to everything you do, that if you don't have it, you might as well be invisible. And that's sort of a quote that I found from you, Stefan. You said, trust is what earns you the right to engage. Without it, you're invincible. And this is very, very interesting. So from your perspective, in a crowded B2B market, or even any market, to say from a business perspective, how do you define the first signals that earns rapid trust?
Well, it starts, for example, when we start writing or talking on a video, we start writing an article, it starts with engaging and showing the reader, the listener, that you understand them, right? You can do this by citing something that you lived through that they also lived through, or you ask a couple of questions so that people, when they read it, they just nod along and say, hey, this person gets me. It's similar in the end, the best practices. And this is why obviously sales coaching is on high demand still for years. You can train people of asking better questions so that a customer feels heard. With the content, it's the same. You feel heard and understood. This person has my interest at heart, wants to understand and help. And obviously, and then you cannot in the middle of your article now pitch your product, for example, or in the video, you don't do that because you go through and you teach, and people will consume more and more because, at the time, like people were always telling me as well, but it's just another kind of way of promoting. And in the end, we're not actively promoting our product because we are looking for people that are trying to find an answer to their question. And because they are seeking information to make the right choice, well, then also like the whole aspect of attention spam comes in. We're not trying to push an ad in front of them and trying to get their attention out of the blue. They were already looking for it and we give them the answer.
Right.
And this is where if you're in so many industries, the potential is huge because no one does that. And they would literally argue about industrial companies, like not even 1% of companies do that.
Yeah.
So, right, there's a big potential. Just start by answering all your customers' questions, and then they will follow you naturally because, hey, they taught me about this, never pushing. So, well, by the end, you want to make a choice like, well, where do I go? The ones that help me decide a lot and learn about everything in our industry, or the ones that were just having a nice website saying how good they are.
Yeah. I watched an incredible presentation of yours in person in Montreal, and you were talking to us about the fact that there's these different pillars of question that you must answer perhaps to really differentiate yourself from others in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. What are those, and dive deeper into them in a segmented fashion?
Yeah. So they're called the big five, right? So we have obviously everyone wants to know at some point, what is the price of something? What does it cost? Mm-hmm. Then problems, fears. Then you want to compare. Okay. Then you want to see reviews and the best of in the category. Like these are the five. Okay. And today, typically, it's what you see on an Amazon page as well, right? They understood this as well. It came out very early in the first version of They Ask You Answer book. I think it was 2017. Later, Google showed studies, confirmed the same. And again, this morning I had a presentation with a customer, and if people are a little bit hesitant, I asked them, well, look in the mirror, yourself in the mirror, and tell me you don't want to know about these 5 things when you do your own research. No one can do that, right? Like everyone says, no, I want to know about what it costs roughly. And yeah, in my workshops, I go deeper, right? To say people, especially pricing, they always go, oh, we cannot do that, our competitors will see it. And then like, well, competitors, do you know what your competitors charge? Well, yeah, typically we know the range where we can find out, yeah, okay, so do you think they know what you charge? Well, yeah, so there's no secret. Might as well help the customer discover it from you. Because if they don't learn it from you, they will hear from someone else what they might tell about you, which can be wrong. Or they are the first ones addressing it openly, and then people stick around there and learn from them, right?
Absolutely. And like you said, for you, when you take a look at from a clarity to conversion, perhaps in a client acquisition system perspective, the clarity is really about accelerating decisions. And that's really the name of the game these days, because again, we're bombarded by news, by this tool, you should try this, and you should scale with this way, and this is the brand new framework that will make you a millionaire in 17 days. So we're bombarded. And clarity, when you can give clarity to your buyers, you completely separate yourself from the sea of sameness, as I like to call it, in the marketplace of those who do not. Now, from that perspective, do you think that's the biggest sort of clarity mistake that brands are making when they're trying to build trust is not only not answering those big five, but maybe sort of thinking that gatekeeping is actually productive when it really isn't anymore.
Well, I think one of the things we can also distinguish when you said, because I really feel what you just said, like being now with PINAVOX in the coaching business, but also like I develop the system, like the trust engine install. So I do all this, but I get bombarded with all these ads about coaching because along the line, I coach as well. Now it is a bit different if you look at many B2B companies because they're looking, it's very specific, right? They're not targeting a huge audience like online coaches in a way, right?
Right.
So it really comes down to just being found by the people that are looking for solutions. And if obviously, let's say the pool gets bigger, right? And there's more people offering what you offer as well. It's literally if you can show how to choose your product, learn, like do all the learning steps, right? That if you just imagine you start off on your journey of discovering something new that you think I should improve this. Well, who talks about how to improve it unbiased with tips and tricks, with guides, etc.? Like if you come across someone who does, you will stick around there, right? And then there's one step, and then the next step, this is where the clarity comes in, and eventually that's one of the real challenging parts. By growing with inbound marketing, you create so much content that on your learning center, what we then do, a learning center, just a blog, becomes really the place where you can learn, guiding them step by step from one article to the next step they should, so that they come down the funnel in certain ways, right? So they advance in their journey. So you make them actually experiencing deeper and deeper knowledge about all the subject. And then you say, well, now if you're ready to really go ahead, well, you can contact us to discuss your project. It's a really subtle way, right? You don't need to push it. You just need to be present. And this is where the clarity comes in, right? You help them really all along the way. But the more inbound the more content you produce, the harder it kind of gets. With each new content piece, to make the clear buyer's journey on your website with your whole content. But this is where you need obviously a good team that can manage and can help you, the customers, flow through these different stages.
It's interesting you mentioned this. I think the best brands in the world are not just provider, they're resources, right? They're people they're companies in which we look up to when we have different basically questions. Let's just take HubSpot, for example, in a marketing perspective. Let's put Apple in the tech industry, now OpenAI in the AI industry. Those are now resources. Those are people we look up to for us to answer our question, and therefore that fosters trust. And what you were talking about is that really, do you think that it's sort of the best antidote for what we call intent buying these days? A lot of people are talking about intent buying. Really, that's what it is. Like I said, not only it's a first right to earn, sort of a first right to basically be able to be to help somebody because they were already looking for it. You were just better positioned basically to be able to claim such traffic in this case, right? From a visual perspective. I'm wondering, you mentioned about the fact that at some point they get knowledgeable enough where then perhaps the CTA can be a little bit more direct. I'm always interested in how do we balance both of these things? How do we balance the educated perspective while still keeping in mind, obviously, that business is money and therefore our client acquisition system needs clears CTAs that might be a bit more on the selling side. Yeah. How do we juggle that?
Maybe I'll come back to the CTA, to your first point quickly. Like, my vision when we started the whole inbound marketing at IMPACK was that eventually, when someone starts new in a company that produces cartons, so potential customer for us, and they don't know about anything, the people in the company would say, hey, go to the blog, Learning Center of IMPACK, read these articles, watch these videos to learn how we run these machines and how to optimize them. Now, to become this number one trusted source of information in the industry, that was my goal. And I'm still believing strongly that if you start with this vision and try to push it there, then you will build the right content. And to your question with the CTA is obviously like there's no just one answer, right? And this is,
Sure.
I'm always take a step back. If some marketer tells me, yeah, you need to do this, absolutely will work, because there's no absolute answer in anything in marketing. You need to test, right, over
100%.
time. And this is why we always encourage customers as well, right? Do something quickly, that feels right, and improve it over time. Because otherwise you will never do anything and just feel like something that you would actually click on, that you would feel, yeah, I mean, because it's still today for me, when I do my own marketing now, being a bit in a different position as well. Okay, to what level you write what, but always go back to your gut feelings, like what would I click? What would I say? Yeah, now that feels like a natural next step. Like now if they're really, now, on an area of a comparison, right? They're looking at comparison articles, might be the good step now to lead them to your configurator, right? Because they're comparing to say, okay, given what you do, like ideally we help customers also do these self-selection tools and say, hey, this is what customers want today anyways. So if they're reading about comparisons, hey, why don't you, do a configurator? And with a configurator, at the result, you might ask for the email, and then, or, for an appointment to finalize your
Right.
configuration. It's a natural next step. So it's
sort of a natural lead magnet. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's natural, but it needs to be visible again, right? It's don't hide it at the bottom somewhere with the same coloring and all. Like it should be catchy now that it catches your eyes with the attention, right?
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's a trend for the beginning of our conversation. Is it should be catchy enough so that it's effective, but it should be natural enough so that, again, it and we're going to talk about this in a second, that it not only blinds with what you're trying to put forward, but also something you talk a lot about, Stefan, is the fact that the brand must match the culture. And I absolutely adore this. One of my favorite business people of all time is Peter Drucker, obviously, which repeatedly said over and over and over that culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? And so there's, every time we talk about culture, I get a little bit excited. That's the way it works. But you really sort of warns that branding is not just what you say, perhaps, but it's really what your people do, right? It's the impact, perhaps, of your work. So from your perspective, what strategies help basically leaders align internal behavior with external brand promises? And tell me about sort of the way they're much closer than most companies realize.
Yeah, in the end, it's like each and every time you start something new like this, and like we had it at IMPACK in the beginning, I was thinking, okay, this worked, and I talked to another leader, say, hey, what do you think about, and then we got on board, we started it slowly. And got marketing, sales teams aligned. Sales are typically not that bought in right at the beginning, because they say, hey, we know our job. We don't need content. We know how to sell. Well, over time, if you show them and they realize that suddenly people come in way better prepared, thankful for your information, and you do more sales with less effort, then they are bought in. It needs a bit more conviction from their side. But over time, they see, well, if I just answer these questions publicly and use this, people come in, they like it. And then you go a step further, right? And we went with engineering department as well. They were experts, because we said, hey, we have technical questions to answer. Why don't you be the expert? And then they went on cameras as well. And not everyone in the service department, but overall, you just say, hey, like when you show people this works, then you say, well, that's kind of simple, right? We always answer our customers' questions. And it's at IMPACK, it was a small company. And at the beginning, when I started, we were only like 17 people. When there was a customer sending after installation, a question or a challenge, something didn't, wasn't doing as it was supposed to be or something, everyone would gather kind of, hey, how will you solve this? Maybe this. because everyone had at heart that it should be solved, and they should be using it correctly in the future, and everything is like, so you see that in so many companies, people want to solve every issue for a customer, right?
Yeah.
And then you think, hey, we can actually prevent these kind of like shock moments internally, because then everyone is like, what? It's not going well. Oh no, it shouldn't. Da, da, da. By just answering and be there all the time. And this is where the good cultures like this, that you just transfer it to every department. Say, hey, when you have a customer question, just let marketing team know, and how you answered it. And then you have more content. So the branding outside is, hey, we answer all your questions. And the crazy part is it helps you as your company and in HR. Like if you are looking for new talents, and this is what we had repeatedly when we were growing, hiring new people, they were all obviously looking at your website, seeing that it's updated regularly, there's content. Like the younger the people get, the more they vet you on if you're doing something, right? Are you on social media? Are you dynamic? But everyone had just really top feedback on, I really like how you show up online, like what you do, because they clearly see it's not trying just to push a sale. It's really be there in a helpful way. So it's, it helped in our recruiting as well.
Well, I think it all sort of come back to emotional resonance, right? Emotional resonance with your clients, with the people inside your organizations. It's so interesting because the cultural tissue of an enterprise is so important, and I think that we're very much going. And I know you agree with this because we already had this conversation. But there's such a big. It's going to be more and more important as we see technology being integrated with human beings to the highest level. The synergies between departments and the fact that we're going to need to have absolute clarity internally, basically before we can have external clarity, is such a key point. And I think there's such a big opportunity right now, Stefan, because the corporate people and the Fortune 500 companies, they're not there yet, because they guess what? They're already doing well, and therefore they're sort of sitting on it. But I can see it before it happens. Those who take advantage of this, and the big companies in which take advantage of this, and all companies that take advantage of this, will either be the first mover in the marketplace, which is always of major value, or will be the one that retain and remain valuable and also, I suppose, culturally relevant in mid to long term. So I really think this is sort of the best time. If you do not have a content strategy right now, and perhaps do not have a place for trust as a differentiator in your marketing systems, this is definitely something to keep in mind and do as soon as possible. You talk about the intimacy in industrial spaces, and a lot of B2B sector that are a little bit more technical, bit colder perhaps, where emotion is typically not the greatest quality that they transpire, I suppose. You see a lot of potential, and we both see potential in that regards, about and it comes back to meaningful marketing, right? It comes back to what makes people buy, what makes people basically interact with a brand, and how can we make them loyal fans and so on. But I'm interested in your perspective. How do you build this emotional intimacy with an audience who basically were used to specs and maybe not storytelling, perhaps? How do we incorporate storytelling in something that can feel sometimes very technical, very jargon-like? How do you strike the balance there?
Yeah, it's obviously it's different, and there, I mean, I'm just laughing like this because then you have different cultural aspects in it, of course, because when I'm selling to a German business owner of a technical machinery or compared to a Spanish or Italian one or like Mexican one, it's way different. Like there's more of, hey, let's get connected, let's go for dinner, let's get to know each other a little bit. That's one side, but in the end, everyone just wants to know that what they're finding and choosing is the right equipment for them, right? And obviously then some will resonate with more stories, but basically with technical people. And this is why, for me, I kind of, after now a year, I added more of a system into my coaching approach and an AI tool with a trust engine to make people, because for me, I clearly saw, well, all these people that are more in a technical environment, they resonate with, here's what you get when you start with someone with just coaching, that is a, hey, we'll get you there, but there's maybe a plan, but not something systematized, something concrete that they get it installed, and when they leave, it's done. These people resonate with this, right? With this approach. And then around this, they just value open and transparent answers. Again, I mean, it's actually sometimes, to me, still, when people are coming in and say, hey, we need all this really elaborated strategy. Well, I'm not a big fan of, all these fancy marketing strategy words in a way, because in the end, what you want to make sure is that it's meaningful to them, but meaningful is always what brings value, right?
Exactly.
What at that point is exactly what they need, what they want to go one step further. And
Absolutely.
It's there where you should not, ideally not push, but provide more value and educate more, right? And then it comes natural in a way.
Well, I say this all the time, but those who give most to the marketplace reaps more from the marketplace. It's actually a very simple equation, specifically these days. It reminds me of, I don't recall who it was, but I saw this great quote, which I really live by, which is, if you cannot explain something simply, then you don't understand it enough. And so you're definitely right. Those who use jargon and have very complex terms and so on, those are typically the people in which, well, I would suggest them, obviously, take my advice or not, but to perhaps be able to be more clarified in their speech, that the people in which need to know about this, which might not be as technical, or the gap of knowledge, which is something that is very important specifically for marketers. We talk about this in AI because we live in it, and therefore we have a knowledge that is much more basically astute than 99% of people. So sometimes what I love is those vulgarator, which are fantastic at taking these big terms and making them simple, so that somebody that never came across this industry can still understand it. There's huge value into that. And there's huge value in the consistency also of making sure that, like you said, making sure we present ourselves. Once we have the learning centers, we now have obviously Style Guide. We now have basically a brand voice. We're now able to be consistent across our branding and visibility, perhaps positioning. That is so huge in this marketplace. It was, it's Debbie Millman, which I really appreciate some of her work, really talks about the fact that the most powerful brands make you feel, not think. They're so great at being able to educate you in a way in which, like you said, through storytellings, hey, that's me. I just read this whole thread. This sound like me. I want to learn more about this. And the intent engagements, and a personalization of the intent engagements, I really believe is the future altogether. I want to talk to you, Stefan, about something that is one of my core values, not only business-wise, but in my life periods. And it's really consistency. But consistency has a hidden speed aspect of it, which we talk a lot about. And you use the word compound very often, which Warren Buffett would be, or even Einstein would be a good fan of you, good friend of yours, because they use that term very often also. And it's really through small, reliable brand actions over time that compounds, that is exponential, is another word that you use quite often, to really make sure that, look, it's maybe not be the sexiest thing, right? Consistency sometimes also means the grueling and tedious work, but it's where the trust lives. And I really think that I would love to hear from your perspective, what are the sort of the micro moments, I suppose, that most company underestimate in trust building, that perhaps you can enlighten us in making sure that they do not, and tap into it perhaps from now on?
Yeah, I would say at the beginning, there's a whole motivation, right? There's like the honeymoon, you start full motivated, right? Or full power, go in. And then actually with writing the first ones, even with the most powerful AI tools today, it's much faster. But there's still a point of actually where it links to what you just said before about making it simple for people. And that's a tough part for most more technical companies, B2B, because you are up here in your mind knowing everything that you learned over the last 5 to 10 years or even longer. And now try to explain it to someone that doesn't know anything about it. So all this process to simplify it and make the first pieces you do so simple that people actually get it if they only know zero of your industry right now. This is where consistency like really needs to kick in, that you have a routinely weekly meetings about new subjects that you discuss what you want to talk about, but then choose different experts. And even though that your first articles might get 5 reviews, like review, then another expert review, like that can be like really frustrating, especially thinking about someone just hired a new content manager, someone that writes or now manages, creates content with AI, even video and so on, very new to the company. And then he gets all these reviews and it's like, oh, shit, I'm not good. I'm not at that level. I will never succeed. Well, it's tough because there's so much technical knowledge inside of a company that is good. We capture all this, but we keep it on the side for later to make other better posts, like more deeper posts or articles and videos and whatnot, right? So it's just there, continue, gather all this, improve, and duplicate this over time. And because all these steps, people just after 3 months to see, wow, okay, now we kind of have this routine that suddenly sales and marketing talk to each other every week. And then it becomes normal. And if like from outside, obviously, when I coach them, it's what you help them realize as well. Hey, this is where we started. Now you're here. It's like, wow, okay, yeah, we take steps, right? And then what you want to make sure all these companies, which is so simple, but also at Impact, someone had to tell us, like, do you share your wins internally regularly? Well, kind of, big sales, whatnot, but no, the small ones, like saying, hey, now one customer read actually the article, gave good feedback. All these little things will help people coming back in another meeting more motivated and writing or helping write another article. Like the consistency of sharing these little improvements will make this compound effect, right, internally. And then once you see the results, obviously, like the measured results from your website, from your lead generation, I mean, then you say, okay, consistency paid off, we continue, or we even accelerate, right? And then you increase your results even more. So it's really sometimes this small thing could just be like I talked to a customer yesterday and it's a planning session with them. I did it after the first 3 months, seeing what are the next priorities, right? And now simply the fact of sharing that a customer actually, without even talking to them, seems to have more confidence and trust to them than other people, other suppliers that they've already met in person, right? And I asked, did you already share it with the sales team? Well, not yet. I was like, well, that's a big, big thing to share because you felt this, you see this with this big customer that everyone knows. You need to share it, right? Because this is where the energy comes from to continue all the work.
100%. And you talk about consistency quite a bit. And I will always cite the same gentleman when I talk about consistency is Mr. James Clear. Truly, you don't fall to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. So content strategy now, with which you have, right, the Rapid Trust system, is not just sort of a series of content. We do one piece of content there, and sometimes when we feel like it, we do another piece of content basically middle of next week. This is something that every piece of content is either a trust deposit or withdrawal, which is very interesting. The way you put it, that's a direct quote from yours, and it's that's the way we should see it. It's that Now it's not only about posting, it's about, again, being coherent, being credible, perhaps being authoritative when you need to.
Mhm.
So tell me about that system perspective and tell us more about how can B2B companies transition from just random acts of content, as I like to call them, to an actual trust-focused content ecosystem.
Mhm. Well, it all starts at the beginning with having the leaders understand that there's kind of an urgency of being present online. And there's there's not just an urgency to being present, but also that there's big potential for them to really make sales and marketing much easier. Just offering the people that are looking for your ideas, solutions, products, the possibility to find you. Like, it starts with this, or maybe an employee see it somewhere, bringing to the leaders. And then when we start with a company, it's always this big alignment workshop at the beginning. Because when you start, people have to understand, everyone, that, buyers are online, even in our niche,
Oh, yeah.
and that we are the ones now that want to become the most trusted voice of our space. Want to be the ones that they find. So that we will be the ones that put out there all the answers. Because this is the big part. Because you don't want to end up a month or and a half or 2 months later, a salesperson coming in a meeting like, why are we doing this again? I don't see any result. That, I cannot show up. Like, I have this. Like, no, the goal is, and then tie it to the company's goals, right? Say, what's the revenue goal? Where do you want to go? Like, to what countries and all this? And it's okay. This is the way we believe now we achieve this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you follow through, right? Because then everyone gets it. And then you can do the step-by-step approach, right? That's first, now with what we've built is really a trust engine. So there's a whole tool that first we set up with all your documentation internally so that it learns from you, is your internal expert. It's kind of a very, actually, I never planned on building this, but it's on the side, becomes the most knowledgeable 24/7 expert that a company will have. And it already, actually, now with some customers, we see, hey, people tell me, hey, I don't have to call X, like this expert here or this expert here for a question. I could just type it in and get the answer.
Mm-hmm.
It saves them a ton of time. But my intention first was just we feed it, and then we have an agent that helps writing the good content based of it, because it goes to the knowledge base and only then launches a request to an LLM to write the whole content. So it's way more precise on what you have as knowledge. So we feed this system, we train it with your voice style and tone, and then the content comes out much faster. Okay, so you start a content production. It's kind of the activation of the whole engine. And then obviously you have one side is more the marketing side, is publishing on your website, on social media, everywhere. But the most critical part at the beginning is, and this is why the first articles that we focus on are sales oriented, very, very clearly.
Okay.
So when we do the alignment workshop, and after that a brainstorm is with the sales team, what questions do you get every week? Think about, like, salespeople use about at least 20% of their time always answering the same questions every week.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
At least 20%. So just think about all these questions. What are they? And then we answer them first and help them learn how to use it effectively in the sales process. How to show people, hey, here's something that really explains how we work together, so that in the next meeting you already know all these details and we can directly talk about your projects. We'll save you about 20 to 30 minutes in our meeting. And then people can do that whenever they have time. And while they do it on their own, they build up trust towards you because, well, you gave them some answers and you show, when I show up, we're moving faster. So this is where good content right away in the sales process will accelerate the sales cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, this compounds with better educated leads online coming in, and you use a better sales process with content. This is where my former company, we cut our sales cycle from 12 to 6 months.
Yes.
Which is huge, right, in this industry. So it's the whole system is create good content for sales first, but also publish it. Make sure you have the most important sales enablement content pieces done, and then you can perhaps go back, to the content pieces that are more informative, like basic level, right, of understanding for people that are generally doing a research. And then as a next step, we also look at, obviously now you get more people to your website, but do you make sure you can convert them somewhere? Because so many companies just have contact us, nothing else. And contact us sometimes is even just send us an email, call us. But that doesn't allow you to track anything. So you cannot measure, because the moment you start with, a leader that invests in a new system, he wants to see the results. And the results you can measure if you have tactics on your website to convert the people into leads, into paying customers, right? And then you can measure, and this eventually is how you can track that this article brought you in a deal and closed at that revenue level, and then you can measure this directly.
Yeah, exactly. I want to talk to you about the metric of trust, actually, because a lot of companies, specifically in the marketing world, but elsewhere also, obsess over reach, right? They obsess over reach, and it's understandable. You want the numbers to go up. It's a pretty green line to up and right. That's what we typically want. That being said, you really guide them to track resonance and reliably able to track resonance also, instead of just basically saying, well, our basically website perhaps traffic just went up 12% this month. So I suppose what you measure you can control, right? What you measure you can also value. So from your perspective, what are the underrated metrics perhaps that reveal whether a brand is truly building trust, and how is it rapid trust systems actually make this crystal clear so they don't have to guess anymore?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's obviously, it will change over time a little bit, because when you start, it's not like, well, we have maybe that amount of website visitors, and even organic is most of the time someone typing in their company name.
Yeah.
Right. So at the beginning, we want to see this organic one going uphill, right? Because then we, with other tools as well, you can see, okay, there are more keywords coming in. People are researching other questions, other terms, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But then later on, once this is going up, this is where, you obviously want to convert and help, like what's the conversion rate of these, and look at your blogs. Because it's actually one of the examples I have, that when we started the whole inbound ourselves, we still had some blogs of an agency on our website that was just saying, hey, what are the keywords we write an article? And this actually drove quite a lot of traffic, but no conversion whatsoever, because it was just keywords and something very generic in our industry, not at all focused on our niche. Mm-hmm. So this one, we tried to see, like, you can add some call to actions, hey, learn more about here or here. But, this is where you want conversions per article that are performing well to go up. And this is where you test your call to actions, right? That on one that you have a lot of visits, you test different call to actions. So the conversion rate. And another one is, what's your average session length, right? Because you want this to go up quite substantially over time, because you have on all your big pieces where you see you have a lot of traffic coming in, right? Mm-hmm. And then people from there, they read. And if you say they stayed like 2 minutes on an article, it means they read it. Like if, this is where, and then they go on, and then times go up to 10, 15 minutes, meaning when someone is really spending some time on your website, like reading more and more articles. And then once they convert, like in HubSpot, you clearly saw that this person literally looked at 30 of our articles. Like then if the salesperson then knows that, right? The salesperson, and Marcus Sheridan in his book, at some point, he found that when people are reading over 30 articles on his website, they converted at 80%. So this is why he also tried different tactics to get people to read more with assignment selling and all this. So it's actually this approach where why you want to make sure when people are at the end of a good article, you lead them to a natural next step. And because if there's nothing, even if you have a ton of information in the whole learning center, but if it's not an easy path to get to a next piece, I mean, the best thing today obviously is YouTube, right? You always get suggested automatically a new article, a new video, and you're watching videos for hours.
Spend all day on YouTube, yeah.
It's what you want to create when people are, obviously, like as a brand, we didn't even talk about this yet, right? Because we first always start with written, because video is just another step. There's so many things to clarify just first before getting someone on a camera. Even if other people might really argue differently, I get that. But for me, it comes back to how many companies have to clarify first how they even talk about their machines before they let someone really just going on a video. Like that's for a lot of companies, that's like a big, like, what video, and then all this technical confusion in certain ways. We clarify this first, at least a little bit in written, and then we can go on videos.
Yeah.
Because then if you add videos on your blog post pages as well, people can watch the videos or read, but this is where you increase the average session length.
Well, you always want to scale clarity, not noise, and that's something that I understand what you mean by that, because yes, it's true that the video is an amazing vehicle now for content creations. What we're doing right now, 12, 14, 20 pieces of content will probably emerge off of it, which is fantastic. That being said, if you don't have a clear outcomes, if you're not perhaps not only aware of what you're aware, but also unaware of again what your audience want, which is why you really want to position yourself internally to serving what the external market is wanting from a data-driven perspective. That is such a key differentiator to really make sure that from day one, or as soon as possible, perhaps there'll still be some testing, but as soon as possible, you're able to really hit the nail on the head and be as effective as you could. Now, what I really love about what you just said is you mentioned about the fact that even if there's an AI, right, with the rapid trust system, there's still an agent that needs to go there to clarify it. So it's really an hybrid, I suppose, with human being, because what we know is that AI cannot fake trust yet. It will surely come, without a doubt. But as we speak right now, specifically with something a bit more technical, the way it blends storytelling into it is still very unnatural, that I found, actually. If you're talking about a book that is something that is already storytelling like, then it's pretty good. But if you're starting something technical and then you're just trying to blend in storytelling at the end, it's either very unnatural or it's completely lost. It's just lost in spec, lost in creating character to sort of fit, but not really. I found that it's the perhaps the portion where they struggle the most, LLMs, is that it's just deep understanding, and especially when there's different field that is coming together on a single topic. It's not too much of a polymath yet. It's gonna get there, but it's, as we speak right now, I have a hard time to put them all together. Now, from your perspective, though, obviously you're a big promoter of AI, and we're both actually big promoter of AI. Exceptional tool, again, not the source, but tool, fantastic tool. I would love to hear your take more singularly on the topic about what's the role of AI in authentic brand storytelling and in overall thought leaderships, and how to make sure that, again, you stay the source and the AI is simply a tool in which enhance basically the effectiveness of the outcome.
Yeah, it's crazy with these tools today, right? I mean, I follow some people that they did tests with also newsletters that you have two versions, and you can tell AI be more empathetic, like put in more empathy in writing, or put in more, like, actually it's more from the chemistry point of view, put more testosterone in the newsletter, and they realized with more empathy, they got more replies. With more testosterone, they had more clicks, more opens, like in taglines. So their conclusion was, once you have, like, when you start it and you want to enhance your message, that's actually also for speaking. If you're a speaker and you want to, your message will resonate better, you can ask it to add empathy to a couple of sentences. And this works pretty well. And obviously, like, get metaphors. It's crazy how it can be creative for you.
It's fantastic.
If you ran out of an idea of how to explain this, maybe, or, if you talk to this audience specifically with an article, what could I use, as a case study to show the example, right? And then it can push you a lot, like give you new ideas. But that being said, like with the tools I've seen today right now, and that I'm starting using with my customers is really, like, first and foremost, it's your knowledge. And if you can use AI to feed from your knowledge first, you make sure there's no hallucination, right? And because you use agents in the whole system, they learn from your feedback all the time, right? So this is a key component, and then you can expand from there to, additional levels of automation in a company. Once you have this knowledge, I can easily add a sales coach agent and train this a bit more on my knowledge, plus the way we, for example, want to create proposals.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes your knowledge and whatever we write in the proposals, right? Because there's text as well, the way, like, and I mean, this is where salespeople are not the best to write these final statements of, hey, like, this should be a big move, right? You present the proposal, rephrase why we're doing this project, what's the big gains and all this. You could automate a lot of things with the right tone and based on this project from AI. Right? So it's in a way, it's crazy what the potential is to still automate so many little things that actually we, as being in the sales roles before as well, like, I mean, at some point it's just you're lazy, or you're just saying, why, this again and this again, we should do this. This is where we want to get AI to help you. And actually, this is the biggest reason why I went all in now in offering my customers an AI tool from start, because the biggest hurdle was, all the time people were all in awe when they heard this, like my story at IMPACK, like the big success. They all wanted this, but then it's like, yeah, now you would have someone to write the content and publishing. Oh wow, that's a big move. We're not sure.
A lot of work.
Well, now we can at least accelerate this by 10, 20, by having this tool right away set up and just someone managing it. It doesn't have to be the perfect writer, but it's much easier to get into it. And then over time, we show more results, we get more buy-in, and then they say, okay, now we want to grow, like we want to add video, right? We want to add this and that. So there's someone full-time managing the whole thing and improving the AI tool that they already built. So it's for me, it's like democratizing. I don't know if it's the right word for this, but I want to help so many other companies just get in the game, because there's so much potential. If you have a good product, you're open-minded, transparent and honest already, just do it publicly, and there are good, easy tools now to do it.
Yeah, I think it's because it's such a big growth lever, and that's really where it comes down to, is that it's a shortcut for growth. It's a shortcut for growth because, one, you will drastically decrease the client acquisition sales cycle. That's been proven over and over. Two, basically from an engagement perspective, what we know from not only a meaningful marketing perspective, but what we talk about a lot in this episode, is emotional resonance. You become now, you're not just some type of corporate that is completely faceless, and the really reason why this is so important is because look what people are saying about the Fortune 500 companies. The first concern that they have, and the problem that they say, is they're faceless. I'm only a number there. It's always the same thing. I always come back to, they lack humanity. this brings basically humanity back in to say, well, look, we are in the business, obviously, to solve XYZ problem. That's why we have a business. We're for profit. We understand all of that. But our goal is to best serve you. And this engine as a way to serve you, as a first preliminary step, basically, to put you in a position to serve as many people as possible in an intent-based fashion is just so phenomenal. And I really want to tie the bow in this episode, Stefan, with having you giving us, I want to leave our audience with an imagery of a few brands that you think are doing this, either some client of yours or people that you're close with, or even companies that you have basically you're not close to yet, but that are doing this trust system correctly, accordingly, so that our audience can have sort of an image of what it actually looks like when it's well made. Do you have any companies that comes to mind from saying that?
Yeah, there's one big one that is actually also, if you read the book, it's a success story. Okay. It's Yale Appliance. So they're actually in the appliance industry, which is a really tough game.
Oh, yeah.
And they started this quite a while back. And the funny story is when I engaged here locally actually not that happened after, but my parents-in-law, they installed a winter garden, right? So I was Googling if you could have a barbecue in there or not. In French first, no result. Then I Googled it in English, and who came up? This company out of Boston, because they are not selling a winter garden, but obviously they got so many questions over the time from people say, hey, I have a winter garden. Can I do a barbecue in there? Buy your barbecue, put it in there. And they answered it with a lot of explanations. And they had people from the West Coast reaching out to them and saying, hey, thank you for all your content, because he compares even service rates of his appliances that he's selling. So he goes as far as disrupting the industry of, hey, I know how many service hours each and every appliance needs, like each and every brand needs.
Okay.
So it gives him a very, very raw data comparison. No emotional feeling, no judgment of him. It's just raw data. And obviously, first, people were a bit like, okay, why? Why would you do it like we're number 10, not number 1? Well, improve your appliances and you will improve. So it became a standard, and people are informing themselves about appliances as we speak, even if they cannot buy from them because they're not selling online. So it's this is one of the top levels, honestly.
Okay.
But I see, like what I see here now, that all the companies I start working with, the mindset is there. Like really, now it's, you really, they say, no, we should go out there. We should be the first ones. And because what happens is often that people that click with that, they say, well, finally someone kind of helps or allows me to do this kind of marketing. Because before, like I was in the same situation, I was thinking, marketing, you should do this and this and, be aggressive there and this slogan and whatnot. So like, well, it doesn't have to be. So they're kind of relieved now. No, it actually works if I'm just being who I am already in front of a customer now, just public out to the world.
Yes, 100%. And it reminds me so much of Art of War, actually. If you want to take a ball over a tribe, be the leader. Be the guy that leads it. Be the guy that is in front, actually basically showcasing others. And that's what I'm seeing in the marketplace, by the way, Stefan, and I'm sure you will agree with me on this. People are now eager to basically understand that this is a must. All right, we have the first movers, right? People like yourself with Impact, people that are site also in the Ask You Answered. But now people are realizing that, hey, the early majority and even the late majority are saying this is a must, people. All right, we waited basically long enough. Now, if we want a chance to compete next few years, specifically with the emergence of AI making this much simpler to begin with, you absolutely need to be visible. And I think that will be how I end basically this podcast is really think about the people you love, think about the brands you appreciate, think about what matters to you. They all have one thing in common, and it's that they're in some ways meaningful to who you are. All right. Think about any company that maybe it's the let's take Patagonia. Actually, I just finished Yvon Chouinard, basically incredible book. Let My People Go Surfing. And Patagonia is one of these brands that was incredibly basically pioneer in this concept of sustainable, obviously, basic outdoorsy equipments. And it's very interesting because Patagonia now, I talk to a lot of skiers specifically in the winter, and I can see when I talk to them that they have a love and affection for Patagonia when they don't know a single employee, they don't know anything except the fact that they are online, they know the cause that they support, and that is what drives everything, is the underlying meaning that speaks to you and therefore allow you to not only be able to, I suppose, being consumed in a way, in a loving way perhaps, by the people in which you give your money to. And I would really encourage anyone to, if you're a business owner seeing this, obviously take upon the Rapid Trust system. It's a no-brainer. But the second thing is, even for you in your personal life, be more mindful of who you trust, why you trust them. And once you get those insights, I think you'll be much wiser for it. So, Mr. Stefan Badertscher, was an absolute pleasure to have you on the Meaningful Podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge. You're now a friend of mine, so you're just somebody that is quite close. And I'm very appreciative of your character, and I suppose the way you handle yourself. You were very, very interesting and very knowledgeable for this episode. So I really appreciate it. And I would love if you can leave our audience with some last words of wisdom, please.
Yes, it was a pleasure talking to you, Sam, as well. And honestly, right now, I would say to many people, you always knew that honesty was the right way. So now it's just a time to scale it for you. And what I just recently also found out, the studies show that we tend towards this one-click search, right? That people ask one question in an AI bot and expect this one clear answer. And the question is, are you showing up there or not? And the very good news is people that already do the Rapid Trust system with clearly answering precisely, interacting with the reader in a good way, this is what AI is looking for, not keyword-filled articles, generic, good, precise, clear answers to a real question. So just lead with honesty and scale it to make you the #1 trusted brand of your space.
Thank you for spending your time with us today on the Meaningful Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review or share it with someone who could benefit from it. And always remember, your story matters. Make it meaningful. We hope to see you next time.